was lost. I don't feel like I knew who I was or who I wanted to be. I haven't been in a mosque in a while. I started reading the English translation of this dua and my heart was shattering. And so I just started like bawling my eyes out. And I told her, I was like, I think I need to become Muslim. It changed everything. What I wanted out of marriage, what I wanted out of life, my priorities changed. I mean, everything goes back to that random Thursday night. I think something that a lot of converts go through is when you convert, you're on the spiritual high. Like you could climb Mount Everest with how good you feel, but eventually it fades, it drops, and it goes.
What are the main struggles that you're about to face after you took your shahadah?
I would wear my winter coat, go out to my car, drive around the corner, and put on my hijab. And I did that for months. All this is in secret. I fasted during Ramadan in secret. It's just without them knowing.
When do you face that fear?
I know this is going to upset you, and I'm sorry. I love you. And I slipped my scarf over my head and threw it over my shoulder, and we both just start driving to the dealership in silence. We walk into the dealership, and he goes, oh, mashallah, I didn't know your daughter wore a scarf. And my mom's like, yeah, I didn't either. When I do convert and revert outreach and do these things, it is a struggle. Islam is perfect, but Muslims can suck sometimes.
Do you feel lonely?
I wasn't expecting that question.
Revert stories always make me question and ponder on my relationship with God, because I was born into a Muslim family, and kind of Islam was something that was regular, like that was the standard for me. So when there's someone that comes along like Lauren, that's family has been here in America for 400 years, Baptist Christians, and she finds Islam, it makes me think of what are the things that she has done in her life. What is it about her that broke that mold, that was so embedded into her life? There's a dark side to every revert's journey to Islam after they take their shahadah. And that dark side doesn't come from Islam itself. It comes from the support of the community members, the Muslims around. We mentioned this during the podcast. I'll say it real quick before we start. Muslims are so quick and are so energetic to bring someone to Islam. But as soon as they take their shahadah, they let go of them. And they kind of let them figure everything out by themselves, thinking that shahada, the time that they take shahada, is the finish line, when in reality it's literally just the beginning. I want you to comment your thoughts on this episode. There's going to be things that are said that you're not gonna like and that I didn't like, but they're truths that we have to face. Like this video if you enjoy what you hear, and with that being said, let's get the show started.
Welcome aboard Middle East Airlines.
والمتوجهة إلى طيران الشرق الأوسط يرحب مدينة القدس العربية.
Lauren, welcome to Not From Here. The way I start this off usually is by self-introduction, and the way I see self-introduction is kind of self-reflection, and that's really when you look in the mirror, who do you see?
I knew you were going to ask me this question. I'm still nervous about answering it because I feel like there's so many facets of somebody, of my personality. But I, first and foremost, am a mother to two of the most amazing, like sunshine, happy little boys you will ever meet. And I know I'm biased because I literally made them, but like they truly are amazing. And I think anyone can tell just how I talk about them that I love them so much. And I am also the wife to one of the kindest, most patient men I've ever met. Truly one of the greatest blessings of the many blessings that Allah has sent to me. But I'm also an avid reader. I'm a people person, certified yapper. I love talking to people. I genuinely feel like my cup is filled just by like social interaction, and I truly love people for like who they are. I am the last to leave any social gathering. I am solely responsible for having my friends and I be kicked out of different cafes and stuff because they're like, man, we are closing, like we need to go home. And I'm a good friend, definitely like fiercely loyal, but I'm also very curious, inquisitive, creative, a little rebellious for sure. And I am resilient. I have definitely been through adversity, but I'm really proud of where I am. And I see someone who fought to get their life to where it is here. Like my life is definitely better than I could have ever prayed for at this point. And I just like I love people. I love helping people. Sometimes my husband is like I want to give people the shirt off my back, but sometimes my husband is like, Lauren, we're out of shirts. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. And he's like, no, Lauren, like the store is out of shirts. Like you have to stop. Like, so it's definitely a good thing he's patient. And
How does how does that introduction of yourself change pre and post reverting to Islam?
Oh, it's completely different.
So what would that introduction be pre reverting to Islam?
I wasn't expecting that question. I was lost for sure. Like, I just felt like I didn't have a purpose. And I don't feel like I had a very strong, like, moral compass. I don't feel like I knew who I was or who I wanted to be. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I didn't have, like, security. I don't think I would have really liked the person I was. I wouldn't have liked the person I was before.
You know, I had some time ago, her name is Dr. Baturida. She's a mental health expert. She's a therapist. And we were talking about hijab. And one thing she said that made me think was, she said that personally for her, if she wasn't born into a Muslim family, she'd think, like her regular thought is, if I wasn't born into a Muslim family, would I have still been Muslim? And the response that she was getting in her head was, maybe no, maybe she wouldn't be Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me think of the question myself. If I wasn't born Muslim, would have I found Islam? Maybe before I would have said completely yes, but I'm also not sure. Now, you're a person that did find Islam when you weren't born into it. And we were just talking about the history of your family. They've been here for 400 years. They touched down in America.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're very, what people would think, embedded in like American culture.
Yeah, I am from here.
Yeah, you're from here.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, do you ponder to the idea of why did I find Islam? Like why was I the person for those 400 years that passed?
Mm-hmm.
And you were the generation, not just the generation, you were the person in this generation that kind of broke the mold.
Yeah.
Do you think about why it was you? What was it about you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided?
I think it goes back to two very central parts of my personality, which is I'm a very like open-minded, empathetic person. So like I want to understand, like if someone walked in here and was like, oh, I worship couches, I'd be like, tell me more. And not in like a, condescending way. Like I'd be like, oh, I want to hear this. It's interesting, or if they were like, oh, I only ever eat spaghetti, I'd be like, can I try yours? Is it amazing? Or like, why? I want to hear people and meet them where they are. But then also, like I said, I'm a little rebellious. So I feel like Islam is so taboo sometimes. Like people act like, oh my God, like Islam is this and Muslims do this. And you hear, these false propagandas. And I was like, oh, let me figure out why people are so afraid of Islam. And I was in middle school, I was in 6th grade, and someone came door knocking and put a Qur'an in our mailbox. My parents were terrified. I don't know why, but they were like whispering, and they were like, oh, let's get rid of it. And
terrified of the person or terrified of the Qur'an?
Of the Qur'an.
Okay.
And it was like an English Qur'an, and sorry to say, but they threw it away. And of course, I went and pulled it out of the garbage, and I was like, why are they so afraid? And took it in my room and wanted to know what it said. Why is this such a thing? So that has always been there. And when you put those two together, me growing up in Dearborn, being in Dearborn my whole life, my friends, my coaches, my teachers, my classmates, they were all Muslim. So I'm living my life seeing them, but being raised in a religion. I was raised Christian, specifically Baptist, and they believe it's a very narrow way of getting to heaven. Like even other Christians might do it wrong and not be in heaven, let alone if you're Muslim or Jewish or, polytheist or anything like that, or atheist. So they're telling me that all these people are going to hell for forever. And I'm like, how can that be? These are my friends, empathy again and open-mindedness, and then mixed with me wanting to be rebellious. And I feel like it just kind of led me to look into it and to ask questions. And I feel like it was inevitable, for me to end up here. I think it's one of those things where you can say you don't know if you would have decided to become Muslim, but like the Holy Qur'an tells us he guides whom he wills. And so if you were guided, you would have been shown it and you would have had to make that decision for yourself. And I did. But I think that also comes to me not being afraid to, upset the status quo, rock the boat. Becoming Muslim isn't easy, especially from like the kind of family that I was from. And there have been times where I truly had to put Allah before anything, like before maybe I'm going to get kicked out. Maybe I won't have my parents anymore. You really have to make that decision. It's not an easy decision.
Were your parents religious?
Oh, yeah, I went to church multiple times a week.
One thing that
I could quote the Bible front and back for
Okay.
you, even still.
Okay. One thing that strikes me is the idea that other people think. So faith is this cool thing where we believe that there's something more. We believe that there's a creator. We believe that there's an afterlife. And the thing that strikes me is that people think with this beautiful idea and concept of having faith that it's black and white. You're either going to hell or you're going to heaven. I don't know. I like to believe that God doesn't work that way.
I don't believe so either.
If someone is pure and I believe that God has a system that he sent us, that he wants us to follow. But I don't think that someone that has never seen this system before or was never introduced to the system before and was genuinely a good person, and we're talking about thousands of years, that God would just be like, no Islam, and then literally picking people like that. I don't like that idea of a God like that. I don't believe our God is like that.
I wouldn't want to serve a God like that.
Yes.
And I don't believe that I do. I've argued with people about this a lot when they speak about, when they refer to like non-Muslims, specifically like my grandma as an example. My grandma passed away in 2020 at the blessed age of 98. And when I was born, she was 75. She lived with me my whole life, right? My parents took care of her. And she really wanted to be a mom. And she had 2 children be born sleeping and finally had 1 child. And she wanted more kids. So she ran a foster home out of her home right here on Morley Street, right around the corner from where we are, in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And eventually went on to adopt 3 children and raise them as her own and never referred to them as any other way. And every night I would hear my grandma say her prayers, pray for people, out loud. And she would always pray that, like, God, help Lauren to listen more, definitely. And pray for everybody but herself. And how am I then going to say that after everything that she went through and what she chose to do, that she's going to burn forever?
That doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. And I think that's the thing, is I was raised in such a narrow viewpoint. Now, me being Muslim, I would never, ever, ever look at someone and say they're going to hell, because I don't know what they faced. We have so many hadith that talk about how there's going to be more people in heaven than in hell. And you don't know what's going to happen between that person in the grave, right? What they're going to choose, or what they're owed themselves. Have they lost a child? Because that baby could, intercede for us on the day of judgment. Have they, did they go through hardship every day of their life? We don't know. What if people are in chronic pain or whatever? Like, how are those things not going to be, evened out on the day of judgment, right? And if we believe that everything that we do is going to come back and speak for us, from like the way we speak to others to the way we treat animals will be given a voice, our feet testify against us, like all these things are coming back. It's so much more complicated, I believe, than just, was this person Muslim or not? Or did this person pray or not? Like, there's so much to it. So I would never, ever look at someone and say they're going to heaven or they're going to hell, because you don't know. And I don't want to have to, make that judgment. That's not for me. But I also know the kind of God that I want to serve. And I wouldn't serve a God that is just so harsh and angry. That's not how, 113 surahs in the Qur'an start. They don't start with, who is most wrathful and most angered. Like, it doesn't start that way.
What was your perception then of Islam pre getting introduced to it? Like pre even that Qur'an that you picked up from the trash. That feels so wrong to say.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I know.
it feels so wrong to say. But like what were your family's perception of Islam that was fed to you?
It was mostly based on propaganda, to be honest. I think it was a lot of like fear-based. My parents, I've never heard them saying anything like racist or anything like that. They are not those kind of people. But I think they were, they hear what the media says, that Islam is oppressive and it's taking over. And, you saw the outrage recently over like a police patch in Arabic. For what? People are so afraid of Islam and so afraid of a different language. I think I just kind of thought, oh, it's, an innovation and it's controlling and, it's maybe barbaric. I don't know. You have to remember too, like, I'm looking at this from the eyes of like a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old. So I don't think I had the capacity to put, I know I didn't have the capacity to put like mature adult thoughts toward this. But at the same time, I knew that these were a lot of my friends and that they were kind and, they were still my friends and my teachers and my neighbors.
There's kind of like a contradiction there where you go home, you hear all these things, and then you go out and then you meet them and be like, it's not matching. Like this description is not matching.
No.
Yeah.
And so that's when you have to decide, or I had to decide, am I going to explore this or just accept it at face value?
The thing about that is you either... Here's what's difficult about your situation, in my opinion, is that, okay, you see this contradiction.
Yeah.
So you can either be like, okay, Islam is still not the right religion, but maybe things are blown out of proportion. They're not that bad of people. But what I follow is still the truth. I'm still Christian. I still follow the truth. I still believe in my religion. And the second thing that can happen is technically what you did, is be like, no, let me explore their truth. So here's where I don't know, if I put myself in your position, I don't know what I would have done. Like, it's like, I don't know, we hear a lot about other religions, or like about Buddhists, for example. And then I can meet a Buddhist and they don't match the description of what we've been told about them, or Christians, but I won't go and explore, even if I know, I'll be like, okay, it's propaganda, they're not that bad. I won't go and explore them though. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Why? It's you going and looking into it is what's interesting to me. Why you didn't have to do that? You could have just said, man, people over-exaggerate. Like, they're not that bad. They just go to the mosque on Fridays, they pray, they're nice, they're generous, but like not giving more into it.
Well, I think that at first that's really what I did. Like, I'm in high school. Where Islam really kicked off for me was a former guest on your show, Abir Safa. She is one of my best friends, and we met in high school, and we sat next to each other in 11th grade in this like weird computer class. And we would just talk about religion, weirdly. She'd ask me a bunch of questions about Christianity. I remember one day I even brought my Bible. And at this point, I really didn't believe in it, but I could answer questions. And we'd talk about different things. And I remember one day sitting next to her and being like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm writing a poem about a man named Ali. Oh, what are you doing? I'm writing a poem about a man named Hussein, And that's kind of where these conversations started, where I started really getting information about Islam back. But it wasn't until much later that I decided to actually become Muslim. I mean, like 6 years later. It wasn't until I was an adult. Because I think I knew that with Islam would come change. And I was worried about if that change would feel like sacrifice, or if that change would feel like a burden or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've definitely been one of those people. It's like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all in, right? So I knew that. But I think even at like 16, 17, 18, I remember laying in my bed and being like, oh yeah, one day I'll become Muslim, but not now. Like, and I read the Qur'an, and I read especially in the 13th surah, Ar-Ra'd, where it talks about like people who believed but chose to ignore. That was me for years. Like I remember sitting in my bed, like reading the shahadah just like to practice. And I'm like, one day I'm going to read the shahadah. Like, what? Like, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened to me if I would have passed in that in between time.
Can we go back to that classroom with Habir?
Yeah.
What was it about what Habir was doing that moved you in such a way?
I think twofold. She is one of those people. She's going to kill me for talking about her, but it's fine. She is one of those people that is religious in the sense of she loves her religion and she just wants to tell you about it. Not religious in the sense of she's judgmental or whatever. And even as...
And that's very rare, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
And she was not judgmental toward me at all. And it's so funny because even as a 16-year-old, she was very pious, you know, and very like modest and very pious. But we just got along well and would talk. And I think when she would tell me, it was during Muharram, and she's telling me about these people and writing this poetry, and it was just the most beautiful tragedy I'd ever heard. How had I never heard about this? And that's really where like my journey into Islam started. It wasn't with the Qur'an. It wasn't even learning about prophets. It was about learning about the Ahl Bayt of Islam. That was it. That was where the story started. And so and that was the first time I ever went to the mosque. I went during one of during one of the lectures. Some guy invited me, like some kid who wore like the, you know, Ya Ali shirt all the time. And I don't know, I went and I listened and went home. So I don't know. I think that's just kind of where it started. And I think it was twofold, like her personality and just how open she was, but also like we got along really well as friends.
It tends to be the people that don't push religion down your throat, that are more accepting. You said a nice word, that's non-judgmental.
Yeah. But you never know where your story is going to start.
Right.
And that's the thing is, I look back, I remember being in 3rd grade and coming back from the summer, and a girl named Maryam put on her hijab. I remember her. She was the first person I knew that like put a hijab on, like in my class, right? At a very young age, 8 or 9. I remember another friend of mine, her older sister, when we came back from middle school, put on the hijab. And that was the first person that like I knew, like was friends with, who I knew her before hijab and after hijab, right? And, you know, someone like Abir has played such a big role in my journey to Islam, and people don't understand. And I think that's a big thing. When I talk to the Muslim and Arab community, they don't understand. Non-Muslims are not reading the Qur'an. It's too taboo. They're not. And most are not. Most non-Muslims are not even, you know, looking into religion this way. But what they are doing is they're watching you. They're watching what you're doing. And with me being a woman who wears hijab, that is such an opportunity in everything that I do. But we have to really, like, sometimes the things that people do and say, I still look at it through the eyes of, like, if I was a non-Muslim looking at this, and it baffles me sometimes. And I think that sometimes we get so caught up in our day-to-day life that we don't ever think about that. But you could be playing a huge journey or a huge role in someone else's journey to Islam. And what it comes down to at the end of the day, with what I try to do for the Revert community, or even the way I conduct myself at the masjid or just in life, I don't ever want to be the reason why someone turns away from God. Do you want to have to answer to that on the day of judgment?
Not me.
And so when we go to the masjid and we criticize what people are doing or wearing at the mosque, or them trying to fast during Ramadan, or anything like that, like what we post on Facebook and social media, criticizing other religions and other people, like, I don't want to have to answer to that. I don't want that person's soul on mine. And I feel like people just do not walk around with that mindset. And that terrifies me, honestly. And I can't be everywhere at once. I can't, you know, I've tried to start different community roles and kind of like filters to try to help people who are looking into Islam and everything. But like, obviously I can't be everywhere at once. I have my own kids and my own family and friends and, you know, responsibilities. But something needs to change. It needs to be reworked.
So basically what you're saying is people that like be a light rather than being someone that lets someone else shy away from Islam, in the sense of don't think that reverts are going to be coming and reading the Qur'an and that's why they're going to want to revert to Islam. A revert reverts to Islam because they meet other Muslims that make them love Islam.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, we are the first thing that people see. Be that reflection. And it's a lot. And some people may say, I didn't sign up for that. And that's fair, right? And don't get me wrong, there are times where I'm driving and someone cuts me off and I might want to yell at them, right? Like, none of us are perfect. But at the end of the day, like, there is something so much bigger than just us. And as Muslims living here, we have to be aware that we are the first thing that people see about Islam. The first thing they know. Actually, we're not even the first. The first thing they know is horrible.
Yeah.
So let's be the first good thing that people see.
Fall is finally here, and Detroit Perk just dropped their seasonal specials. You already know the vibes, from the cozy drinks to the fall flavors, pumpkin spice, caramel apple, s'mores flavored drinks. They have it all. If you want to introduce your body to the fall season, this is the way I would do it. And if you haven't downloaded the Detroit Perk app, now's the time. Order ahead, skip the line, and when you get there, your fall favorites are going to be on the counter waiting for you. And I'll include the ways to order online and download the app in the description of this episode. Here's something that you don't realize. One mistake in your auto insurance policy can cost you thousands of dollars if you get into a car accident. The fine print really matters, and a lot of us don't know what we have in terms of policy and coverage until after the accident happens. But that's why I trust Nasser Insurance Agency. They make sure that every detail of your policy is covered and you understand what it is, so you're not left paying out of pocket when an accident happens. Don't take chances with things like this. Call Nasser Insurance Agency and get coverage that actually protects you. I have all the information to contact Nasser Insurance Agency in the description of this episode. And now, back to the episode. There's a lot of fixing to do in people's perception about Islam, especially here. And it's not so much that you have to be this person that's going out about your day trying to let people revert to Islam. I don't think that's the right way to go about it, but just being a decent human being, being kind with every interaction, Muslim, non-Muslim, it doesn't matter. Because from what you're saying, you never know who has that thought tingling in their brain. And maybe it needed just that one act of kindness from you. They'd be like, oh, this is the sign that I needed.
Yeah. Or maybe they feel comfortable enough to ask you questions. I feel like I get asked a lot of questions because like I said, yapper. I feel like people we talk. But also I think people are less intimidated because I'm kind of in this weird in-between where I don't really fit in either one, right? Like, I am a white woman. But when I put on my hijab, I lost a lot of my white privilege to, like, the non-Muslim community. But I also don't really fit fully into, like, the Arab Muslim community. So one of the good things about that is that sometimes people feel like they can ask me questions. Well, like, why did that happen? Why did you become Muslim? And I know where they're coming from, so I can answer their questions kind of with what they're looking for. So I get asked a lot about, hijab and the whole, married for women thing and all of the misconceptions. Yes, probably. All of those things, I get asked them all the time, and I'm okay with that because as long as obviously it's done in a respectful way, then I don't mind. But I really, try to answer their questions. Like, did you revert for a man? No. Was it forced? No. Do you wear that thing, that thing on your head because you were forced? No. These are all questions, and I explain. I'm like, no, actually, blah blah blah. So I think my husband is also a revert, and his family he's Mexican. His family is Hispanic Catholic. So that is religion intertwined with culture to a level that I think a lot of people don't understand, right? But then also my family was raised very conservatively Baptist.
Can you explain that to us a little bit?
Which one? The
cultural embedded with religion and why it makes it harder?
Yeah. I mean, look at your Arab culture. There's a lot of things that have to do with Islam mixed into it, right? And the same way, Mexican, like if you're, how to explain it? Oh, I'm going to pause for a minute, think.
I'm thinking it's like one of those things where people think it's religion, but it's really culture. and they're a little blended in some areas.
They are
Is
blended.
that what
Like,
you mean?
So, for example, holidays are very mixed with the culture and the religion in many aspects, as well as like maybe like superstitions and different things. Like, it is just, even the naming scheme is very religious, and it's, you know, most people in like where my husband is from in Mexico, they are Catholic. Like, so his family has also been here a couple generations, so it's not as big of a hurdle, but it's still different than what you would expect.
Yeah.
And I think people see us coexist wonderfully. I have wonderful in-laws, and they come over for Eid and break fast with us sometimes, and they're just on board to accept and love us, and they love my kids, and they respect my boundaries. And I think when people see that my husband and I are able to navigate this, it sheds a light on the interfaith to a different level than they're used to, and acceptance. And I think that they see how I speak about my in-laws and how I speak about my parents, and I think it really opens a door for conversation. It's something unique, it's something different. I don't have the normal story, and that's okay. And I think part of that, I had to decide whether I was going to be an open book and let God use me or not. And some people are not open, and some people are not, and that's okay. I don't think everyone has to be, but I've chosen to be an open book and allow people to ask those questions and try to break down judgments. And I have had people openly tell me that I have never heard it described like that. You completely changed my view on hijab. You completely changed my view on Islam and what people think. And obviously, like, not all those people have become Muslim. Like, most of them haven't. But if I can just make people more like open and compassionate to other Muslims or those narratives, I think that that's really important.
You mentioned something that you didn't get introduced to Islam through the Qur'an or through the Prophet. It was through the Prophet's family. And I think that's beautiful, because I think Islam is like, getting introduced to Islam from different doors is a good thing, you know? Maybe someone's path is the Qur'an, and they read a verse and that verse struck them in the heart, or they heard a story of the Prophet and that struck them in the heart. What about the Prophet's family struck you in the heart?
At this point, I had been raised Christian my whole life, but it never sat with me. I never like could fully commit to the point where when I was probably like 14, 15, I really didn't want to go to church anymore. It wasn't for me. I never felt that connection or that peace or that assurance. And so then when I am hearing this just tragic, everything on the line, sacrifice of everything, of everyone I know, of everyone I love, of everything that I have for God, I was mind blown. I could not wrap my head around the fact that someone would have that much faith. How did Imam Hussein alayhi salam have that much faith? What God was he serving, and how do I get to know him? I want to serve a God like that. I want to know why he was that passionate and that assured that he could risk all of that. And that was really the game changer for me.
You wanted to understand what is so special about preserving this message of your grandfather, that you had to sacrifice yourself and everyone that you know in the process.
What was worth that sacrifice? What God was worth doing that for? It wasn't the one that I was raised to know. I wouldn't have done that. Not with the level of just doubt and uncertainty that I felt being raised Christian. I don't think Christianity was ever for me personally. It wasn't my thing. Respectfully, of course.
Yeah. What is it about the God that you perceive now that you feel is so attractive to you?
The mercy. So I was raised to believe that we were all born sinners. We've all done bad things, and therefore we are going to hell for forever. I was then raised to believe that the only way out of that, the only way out of burning in hell, is to ask Jesus to save you, right? That he was God and that he came and was crucified. But everyone who doesn't do that is going to burn in hell forever. And there's verses in the Bible that people manipulate, because not all Christians do this. I think, and most don't. I have a very unique kind of extreme case, something we would call like fundamental, which means like very old-fashioned, very conservative, very small, like a very unique set of beliefs. They would use verses in the Bible to talk about how even if you did a bunch of good works and did your best, it would still be seen as like, your soul would still be seen as filthy to God. Like, it would still not be enough, right? Flip that. And the way we even speak about God, or God tells us to speak about him in Islam, in the Qur'an, is solely different. I think people lose sight of the fact that the most merciful, the most beneficent, what does that mean? He doesn't tell us to look at him as being this harsh or angered. You know, like I said earlier, it is a completely different way of God. God wants to be kind to us, and everything can be forgiven. And he tells, don't lose hope in him and the afterlife. And he even leaves the door open for people who haven't heard to then hear and make a choice in the grave. Like, how many chances does he give us?
A lot.
And he's just, and it is completely different. Whereas the God that I was taught to believe in Christianity was not merciful first, not just. You either did this thing or you didn't. And when I would ask questions, sometimes they didn't always have the answers, or they didn't sit with me. They didn't make sense. And so for me to then, read his book and do what he asked me to do and do all these things, to me, it wasn't a God that was worth serving or doing those things for. Whereas now in Islam, the things he asks of me are easy. And yeah, sometimes maybe you like, oh, that, steak over there looks so good, but it's not halal, I'm not going to eat, whatever. But I mean, like, I feel like Islam has a lot of things that it asks of you, right? And I'm sure all of us don't necessarily even do as much as we could, in sense of like, getting up in the middle of the night and, praying extra prayers or doing all these things. But yet, when you believe and actually believe in your heart, and it is a God that you believe is worthy of serving, it comes a lot more naturally and a lot easier.
How come you never looked into the other sects of Christianity?
I think I was just so jaded from my experience that I lost a lot of respect that I've since gained. I have a lot of respect for the people of the book and the books. I still have my Bible and I read it. And a lot of my friends are of multiple different backgrounds and faiths and everything. But at the time, I think that door was just closed. It was, and also the environment that I was raised in, it wasn't only misconceptions about Muslims and Hindus and atheists, but it was also misconceptions about other sects of Christianity.
After sitting in the classroom with Abir and kind of starting to look deeper and dig deeper, how did kind of your progression into Islam happen? Like, what were the next steps that you had to do from grade 11 onwards?
So after high school, I graduated and I went to college, and I feel like it's really hard for religion and a secular college to coexist. And so I think by the time I got to college, I'd kind of just said, I'm not religious.
Okay.
I don't think I could ever deny the existence of God, and I wouldn't ever talk bad about Islam, which is kind of funny, but I was just over organized religion in general, over the idea of it. And I kind of feel like as time went on, if I was here, or like if religion was here, the longer I went through college, I kind of drifted even further and further away. And it wasn't until my third year of college that I just like hit rock bottom. I I was seeing my friends getting ready to graduate. You know, they were finishing up their third year, and a lot of them have done like dual enrollment and different things. So they're getting ready to graduate, and I didn't know what I was going to do in college. I thought I was going to do one thing, change my major all these times. I didn't like the person that I was. I just felt lost without that purpose. I was pretty depressed and just really struggling. And I met another sad girl, as I call her, and it's so funny because she was in my life for maybe like 3 months. It was such a short time. But she was like, oh, well, when I'm sad, sometimes I go to the masjid, and on Thursday nights they read this dua. Do you want to come? I was like, sure, we'll come. At the last minute, she ended up not being able to go. And I had just met another girl at Starbucks studying with her, and she wore hijab. So I was like, let me ask her. And I was like, hey, do you want to go? And she said later, she was like, why is this white girl asking me to go to the mosque? But sure. So we go. And
because even among Muslims, not a lot of them actually visit the mosque.
Yeah.
Like some of them just pray at home, and
especially on a random Thursday night.
They'll go for months and months, and they won't step into the mosque. So yeah, like I can see like that question from like your random white friend that's like, hey, you want to go to the mosque, and you haven't been to the mosque in forever, and be like, sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't Ramadan, it wasn't Friday, It was just a really random Thursday night. So we went to the Islamic Institute, and we walk in, and I was like, oh, this is strange. I haven't been in a mosque in a while. And I just sat down and I started reading the English translation of this dua, and I just felt like...
You're talking about Du'aa Kumayl, right?
Yeah, and I just felt like my heart was just like shattering, but in a good way. Or maybe not a good way, but in a way that I was just so emotional. And so I just started like bawling my eyes out. Once again, this poor girl is looking at me then like, what is happening? And I told her, I was like, I think I need to become Muslim. And there was no scholar there. There was like whoever had led prayers had left. So we walk through the prayer hall to the back where they hold like hausa, like seminary classes. And they're like, oh, the Sayyid will be here in a minute. So we're waiting. And eventually Sayyid Muhammad Bakr comes like rushing in. And my friend is like, Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid. Like, my friend has a question. And he goes, okay, as long as it's quick, I do need to teach. Because at this point, I think he was a few minutes late. And there's like 30 people in this room waiting on him to come in and start teaching his class. And she goes, oh, okay, well, I think she wants to become Muslim. And he has like a notebook and like his iPad. And he turns to the side and just like drops them on the floor. Like from where he's standing, they drop. He goes, okay, I have time. And he just sits there and starts asking me these questions, engaging where I am.
What are the questions that Sayyid is asking?
We believe that there's one God, and we call him Allah, and he is the same. And I was like, yes, I know.
Is he making sure that you understand what you're walking into?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was like, yes, yes, absolutely. And he was like, and we believe in all of the prophets, the ones that with one additional, Prophet Muhammad. And you'll say this, and this is what it means. And do you believe that? I'm like, yes, And then he says, and we believe that Imam Ali is his last messenger. So as an optional after, you can say this if you would like. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can still become Muslim. And I looked at him. I said, Ya Ali, I know. Because I had grown up like hearing kids yell Ya Ali on the soccer field or in class or whatever. And I was like I there was no Islam for me without Imam Ali, without the Ahl Bayt. Like, and
you got introduced to them through his kids.
I knew more at this point about Imam Ali and about Imam Hussein, which I'm not saying is a good thing, but I knew more about that than I did about the Prophet at that point.
Yeah.
So I was like, sure. Like, how would I say the Shahadah without that third line, without having him involved? Without Imam Hussein, without Imam Ali, there is no Imam Hussein, there is no
that door was still closed. Technically, if
and so he looked at me, he's like, okay, and so there you go. Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, ashhadu ali waliyullah, and it changed my life. It changed everything. It was like, and I've said this before, I've said this analogy, but I truly can't explain it. It was like that moment, that random Thursday night where I basically accosted Sayyid Muhammad Bakr. It started this like ripple effect. It's like a drop in the water. And if you drop a water, it creates this like ripple, this wave. It is still going to this day. It's been 7 years. And there are things that have changed in my life, my relationship with my family, who I am as a person, the trajectory of my life, all goes back to there. Within a very short amount of time, I figured out my major. I figured out what I wanted to do. I have a bachelor's in psychology. specifically child development. I love child development. And I ended up figuring that out. And I ended up figuring out within a year, or within 6 months, I realized that my husband was who I wanted to marry. And we got engaged. And my family became, like, my relationship with my family became better. I really started discovering what I wanted out of marriage, what I wanted out of life. My priorities changed. I mean, everything goes back to that random Thursday night. And these waves are still happening now. And I feel like they've started as little ripples and they've turned into like tsunami waves sometimes that hit me. And then, like, when did I start going down this path? When did I figure this out about myself? And it all goes back to then. My mental health significantly improved because at the end of the day, I had a purpose, and I realized that I did believe in God and that his plan was bigger, and it brought me comfort. And I'm not saying that you can't be Muslim and be depressed, because you can. Yeah. And I've definitely had some things that have happened that have really challenged my faith and challenged, my mental health. But I've never felt completely hopeless, because at the end of the day, I have that faith in God, and I found a purpose that helps me through.
What's that drive home back like, though?
I don't even know. I don't know. I feel like it's a blur. I was just so like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Like, I'm so happy, but then who can I tell about this? Like, I want to keep it to my heart. I don't want someone to discourage me or say the wrong thing. I was scared.
Because there's a lot that goes into like new religion. There's practices. There's things that you have to do.
And I was scared.
Yeah.
But one of the first people I told is my now husband. He was a very good friend. We had been friends for a while. And he had definitely seen me defend Islam, talk about Islam. He went to school in Dearborn, but to Divine Child, right, Catholic school. And he really had never had a part in like the Arab or Muslim community. Not really. He had kind of been kept in his own little bubble. And so there are times where we were in like a big friend group. I met him in college. We were like math partners for a calculus class that we took. And I met a lot of his friends. He knew my friends, and we had met each other's family, and we were just friends, really good friends. And so he had kind of seen this evolution of me. And so he was one of the first people I told, and the first thing he said was like, "I'm proud of you. I saw this coming." Like,
was he a revert at that point? Okay.
No, I converted first. And he saw it coming, and he's like, "I'm not surprised at all. I'm proud of you." And yeah, and the next day, this is where I think I really had my euphoric moment. The next day I went back to the masjid. That mosque has Friday night, like NYC programs, right? And so I go back, and I'm sitting there, and after the program finishes, I go into the prayer hall, and I fell on my face and made the most sincere dua I have ever made in my life. And I said, "God, I am scared of what I've done, but I'm going to give this my all. But I am scared and I feel vulnerable. Stay close to me. Keep me close to you. Make it so obvious that I've made the right decision. Like, slap me in the face with how obvious this was. Protect me from doubt. Protect me from those who want to hurt me or lead me away. And just help me to do this to the best of my ability. And please stay close to me." And I left, and I went through the Starbucks drive-thru, and I'm on the phone with my now husband, telling him about how I went to the mosque and how they were talking about charity. That was the whole lecture, was about how get back to the basic of charity, of feeding someone and clothing someone, and just, and that was something that had always attracted me to Islam anyway, was how charitable it was. And so I'm telling my husband about how the lecture was about something I've always respected Muslims for doing anyway. And I pull up to the drive-thru, and the lady goes, "The person in front of you paid for your drink and wants you to have a great day." I started bawling, because I'm sitting here telling my husband about how the Sayyid was talking about just get back to the basics of feeding someone, of, buying food for someone. And I was in such a vulnerable state that then to have like the chances of that, and little things like that just kept popping up, letting me know that God was so close to me and that I was okay. Like, I was going to be okay. And it's crazy to look back at, in just a few months, how many things and hurdles I had to overcome, and terrifying truths that I had to realize, and decisions I had to make. But God was with me through every step of that. And I think something that a lot of converts go through is when you convert, you're on the spiritual high. Like you could climb Mount Everest with how good you feel. You could, face down enemies. You can do anything. But eventually it fades, it drops, and it goes. And it's hard to get that feeling back sometimes, but for those first maybe 6 months, that first year, I was ready to take on the world, truly. And I needed it because I went through a lot in those next few months.
What are the main struggles that you're about to face after you took your shahada? Is it yourself, like Lauren herself and figuring herself out? Islamic practices that you have to go through? Is it your parents and telling your family that are Baptist, Christian, religious, told you all your life how Islam was no?
Yeah.
Now you have to tell them that you're Muslim.
Yeah. Telling my family
was the hardest?
Was probably one of the hardest, yeah. Definitely. I didn't tell them for months. I started secretly wearing hijab. I went to an Islamic retreat and lied because it was at a Christian center. So I was like, I'm going to this or whatever. And they let me go. But it drove such a wedge. And I truly think they thought I was like on drugs or hiding from them or something, when really I wasn't. I was at the mosque. But yeah, I was hiding so much from them. I was never home because I wanted to be at the mosque all the time. I was studying at the mosque, praying every prayer at the mosque or in college. And I don't know.
How does that conversation happen?
It didn't for months. So I started secretly wearing hijab. That really drove a wedge because then that meant every time someone came over, I was hiding in my room. And it also meant that there was no more going out in public with them because I decided probably 6 weeks after converting that I was going to wear hijab. I don't know why. I thought that this was going to just be seamless if my family already didn't know. I would wear my winter coat or a hoodie, put my hood up, go out to my car, drive around the corner, and put on my hijab. And I did that for months. Like actually months. I was in college. I was not working, so there was no new wardrobe. So I was working with the clothes that I had and what I had. And I truly did my best. I was praying in secret. I decided I went to the NYC retreat. A very kind lady paid for me to go so that I could go without having to tell my parents I needed, $200 some. She bought me my first abaya and gave me a prayer rug. And I went to this retreat and I learned how to pray. And I came back and I was like, I'm going to keep my prayers. That's it. I learned how. And so within a week, when I first started praying, I was using a sheet. Within a week, I was doing it myself. And I was like, I'm going to keep my prayers. I'm praying in secret. I decided I was going, instantly only eating halal food, doing that in secret. Like, there was so many things. I was not eating with them anymore. I was, hiding in my room, locking my door.
Are they asking you questions or no?
I think more so it just kind of created this very quiet resentment or this distance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, they didn't ask me questions, and I'm glad because I don't know that I would have had answers for them. I think they were just really concerned. What's going on? I'm waking up in the middle of the night to pray and hiding it or whatever. There was a lot of things going on, and it only got worse when I realized when I really started to look into Islamic law and purity laws, I couldn't even eat off their dishes and their pans and things. So at this point, I literally found a $20 bill and I go to Target and I'm buying plastic plates. And I bought up myself a frying pan and a knife and all these things. And I am keeping these things in a container under my bed, like a storage container, pulling them out, taking them with me to the kitchen, cooking all of my food by myself in my pots and pans, washing them by hand with my own sponge, taking them back in my room, putting them back, and putting it away. If someone told me I had to do that now, I do not have that spiritual high. That would be such a burden. I would be so resentful that I was doing that. But at the time, I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
And this is without them knowing.
All of this is in secret. I fasted during Ramadan in secret. All of this is just without them knowing.
I can't imagine the mental load that was on you. Forget everything that you're doing is very difficult.
Yeah.
But just the mental aspect of it, of you having to always be on alert. Are they going to see me? Are they going to do this? Am I able to slip a prayer in right now? Or should I wait 5 more minutes? are they gonna come home? Are they gonna see me doing this?
Yeah.
Are they gonna see me stashing the pen under my bed? Like, to them, you do look crazy.
I do.
Like, what's our
It
daughter?
probably
What's
didn't help
happening
with
to our
them
daughter?
thinking I'm like joining a cult.
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't help seeing
No.
your daughter never home. When do you face that fear?
When did I tell them?
Yeah.
My car lease was up and I had to re-sign it, and I needed a co-signer, so we had to go to the dealership together. And I'm sitting in the car. I just had this like ball of fabric in my hand. I had my scarf, and I'm not wearing my hijab at this point, but I'm like switched down in the car, and she's driving me there.
She's driving.
Yes, and she's driving, and I said, I know this is going to upset you, and I'm sorry. I love you, but this is something I've chosen to do, and I'm going to do it right now. And I slipped my scarf over my head and threw it over my shoulder, and we both just are driving to the dealership in silence. And we walk in, and she's just in shock, and it's so funny.
She doesn't say anything to you?
What do you say?
Like, at least what are you doing? Like,
She
what are you
knew
talking
what
about?
she was doing, what I was doing.
Okay.
And come to find out later, she told me, she's like, do you really think I never saw you in your scarf running inside? I think sometimes it was just easier to keep the peace. But it's so funny. We walk into the dealership and he goes, oh, mashallah, I didn't know your daughter wore a scarf. And my mom's like, yeah, I didn't either. It's so funny. Yeah, the car dealer was Arab. Yeah. So then we came home and we all kind of went in our rooms, and then I heard Lauren Ann, we need to have a discussion. And we had a big family talk right on the couch.
You, your mom, your father?
My aunt and my grandma was there. It was a lot going on. And we're all crying, basically.
Were you scared?
Petrified.
What was worst case scenario in your head?
They were going to tell me I had to leave the house. Yeah. Which I think there is a reality where that may have happened.
Okay.
Which is what I was scared about. And I didn't have a job at this point. I wasn't married. I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have anything. And so I think ultimately
You had Allah.
I did, but I had to choose to put him above all of the modern comforts and, conveniences that I had. I'm telling, and like, I can't explain why I thought that all of this was a good idea and I just jumped in, but I did it. And it's so funny because, listen, I have my struggles, like in my areas, right? We all do.
Definitely.
Different things that we struggle with. But hijab has never been one of them. Alhamdulillah, my hijab has come so easy, and it's because I fought to wear this piece of fabric on my head. Like, I fought, I hid, and hijab has always been a comfort. I wanted people to know I was Muslim. I wanted to be able to say Alhamdulillah and people not look at me like I was crazy, because I didn't feel like I could do that as just this like random white girl walking around.
Is that why it was so important to you?
Maybe.
The fact that you had to have it on, because to be honest with you, if you had maybe talked to a scholar and you're like, I might get kicked out of the house if this.
He would have told me to not put it on my head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He would have told you that, look, Lauren, right now, you really don't have to think about this. Maybe later you have to start exploring the idea, but as long as you know, but like if this is going to put you in this much danger, then like maybe hold off on it. You were so adamant.
Yeah. It was twofold. I decided I was going to keep my prayer. So I was at U of M Dearborn bringing a hoodie with me every day to throw a hood on so I could pray. And that got inconvenient, right? So I was like, well, if I'm wearing my hijab, then I don't have to. And I was spending a ton of time at the masjid. So like I'm already wearing hijab all the time. But also, I truly think that me choosing to do it in the midst of chaos has, up until this point, been why it's been an ease and a blessing. Because I chose to do it anyway.
100%.
And I same with like halal food. I know a lot of reverts struggle, but me living in Dearborn, that hasn't been.
True.
And I truly think part of that has been the blessing of me choosing to do it when it was hard, and now it's an ease,
So with hijab specifically, I want to touch on this a little bit. There on a lot of the videos that we post on the channel, especially about hijab, reverts talk a lot about their struggle with putting it on and keeping it on.
And that's valid.
Okay.
I am never, ever going to discredit someone else.
So let's talk to them a little bit.
It is hard.
Okay.
It is absolutely hard. It is one of the biggest things that people tell me. When I do, convert and revert, outreach and do these things, it is a struggle on multiple levels. It's a struggle because you feel like your femininity of what you know is being stripped. You look different to yourself and to others. It's a reminder, good and bad, everywhere you go, that something has changed, that you are different. I mean, it is jarring. It is, seeing yourself in a scarf for the first time, it is so strange. You don't look like yourself. All of that going on with this identity and other things you're having to give up, it is so valid. And I would never, ever undermine what someone else is going through. I have a really good friend who struggles with hijab, but like as soon as that adhan goes off, she's on her face praying, right? We all have our own things that are hard on one side and good, and easy for us on the other. And I want to say that when I talk about how my hijab has been a comfort and ease for me, that does not discredit like anyone else because it's valid. And another struggle that you're having is most reverts are women, statistically, and most are young. So you're going through this either in a stage where you are financially dependent on a husband or parents or whatever's going on. Like, you can't go out and buy yourself a new wardrobe to make you feel good. You're usually picking either through articles of clothing you already have in your closet, trying to make an outfit that looks semi-decent, or you're having to buy the cheapest things that you see on clearance at Old Navy or Target or H&M or whatever, hoping that they work, hoping that they fit. It's not an easy thing. And so even though it's been easy for me, I do not want to discredit that it is not easy for most people.
The comments that I see are a lot of what you said. They look unfamiliar. And that makes sense because if you live your whole life, especially like when you don't live in a place like Dearborn, when it's like it's predominantly non-Arab. So you really stick out like a sore thumb and you look different. And I feel like Arab girls, they're so used to it because they've seen it from a young age. They know how to like put it on in a nice way where like they look nice and where their outfits, like they look put together, where if someone is reverting from like being Christian or like white, black communities, you're not, or Hispanic communities, you're not going to have that like sense of how to style and look good and go out where you're confident. Yeah. You're not going to look confident. And that's a lot of what they say is they don't look confident. They don't feel confident. They don't feel pretty. Those are like the things that mess with their head when it comes to hijab.
And like, especially our generation, I think we're similar in age, right?
Yeah.
If you think back to like middle school, when a lot of like young girls start wearing hijab, you think about all like the colors and the layers of the amtas that they would wear, and like the weird t-shirts and long sleeves under t-shirts. Not that that's weird, but you know what I mean? Like, you have that awkward stage where you're able to like find your style and your comfort and the modest level that you want, and you're able to ask your parents to buy you clothes. I could not go to my parents and say, can I have $100, $200, $300, because mind you, long dresses are not cheap, or abayas are not cheap, to go and buy this new wardrobe. That wasn't a thing. I was doing my awkward stage in secret at 21 with no resources. Like, it's not easy. And I had it easy compared to the things that I hear from other people, right? I live in Dearborn. I blend in more, like you said, with my hijab than I did as a white girl walking around. Like,
right.
I fit in more now. It's a comfort now. I loved that in Dearborn. The minute I put on my hijab, if I'm walking through the grocery store, men just move out of the way. It's great. Yeah. They're like, oh, go ahead. And even like young teenage boys, like when I walk around the corner, if they see me like whatever at a park, whatever, they stop swearing, they stop being so loud, they move out of the way. It's like a respect thing, but that doesn't happen in other places. That's a uniquely Dearborn thing.
That's so difficult. And
that's why my story is unique and different. And my story, as hard as it was, or as great as it was, it can't discredit or compare to other people, because it is like a 1% less than that, like a 0.0001% that someone is going to have a similar story to me.
What are some of the other struggles that reverts have been that they tell you they go through?
Figuring out that your job is not halal and you have to leave it.
Interesting. I never heard that one before. Being
in a marriage where you're going to convert and your husband isn't. and trying to find to what capacity can you decide to stay in this or not. I feel like when you convert, the extremes come out from like left and right. So you have like crazy people that prey on reverts under the guise of Islam and say that like, oh, come follow us. And I'm like, no, don't do that. People jump on you and want you to do everything perfectly when even the Qur'an took years to be revealed. And, you know, no one expected the companions of the Prophet to just do everything overnight. Like, it was a very gradual over years.
That's what bothers me the most.
Mm-hmm. But I have to be, like, perfect from step one, you know, from day one. There's a lot that being constantly compared. Even now, to this day, around me, I guess maybe it means my friends are comfortable, but they'll say things like, oh, yeah, white people do X, Y, Z. I'm like, I don't do that. I'm white. They're like, oh, I didn't mean you. I was like, yeah, but I'm Muslim. Say non-Muslims if that's what you're referring to in this conversation, but don't create the division between you and I. There's so many things about other things they face. Like getting married is a big thing. You know, I see so many people talk about how like this person I want to talk, but his family doesn't want to marry me because I'm a revert. Yeah. Like if you're Lebanese and your mom doesn't like where the other Lebanese village that this person is from, you can't talk to them, let alone like try telling them that you're going to marry someone who's white or Mexican or whatever. The cultural difference, because most reverts do marry someone who is born Muslim, right? Like my story is also unique that way. So they're dealing with a cultural difference. This person is Pakistani or they're Saudi or they're Iraqi or whatever. And I mean, I could go on and on about the struggles that people face. Another thing is like being in situations where people aren't speaking English. I think sometimes people do it without realizing, but like I don't speak Arabic very well. I can understand like a decent amount of it, but I don't speak it. And so I'll come into a conversation and people will keep talking Arabic, knowing that I don't speak it. And that sucks.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of this in-between of like, well, I don't really fit in with the white people anymore. But my husband and I are both reverts. Our Eids are lonely if we don't, you know, invite our family or whatever. We don't have that like big wake up, their celebration. There's so many things that reverts face. And it's difficult.
And I think a lot of the work sits on the Arab Muslim community to kind of it's so sad to even say, like it's embarrassing in a way where
I think it is. Yeah. I think it is embarrassing. I have been at masjids, like big ones, where the scholar is doing a little chat in between prayers and heard seniors say, like older people say, why are you speaking in English? Speak in Arabic. But realistically, people our age and younger, majority are not as fluent in Arabic now as they are in English. Yeah. And I've literally had sheikhs look and make eyes with me and have to make that decision. Am I going to tell Amo to sit down or Jiddo to sit down and I'm going to continue this in English, or am I just going to cave? But where does the money come from? To the mosque. I have asked masjids to, if I can give like a tour or if I can hold like a class here. And they're like, oh, we have to get approval from the board. Oh, we have to do this and that. And a lot of times the answer is no. People can say that they want to help and that they want to change, but I don't see the effort being made to make reverts more comfortable in the mosque. I just don't.
Mortgage rates are the best they've been all year, and if you've been waiting for a sign to make the move, this is it. Mortgage Connections know how to take advantage of the market when the time is perfectly right. Whether you're buying or you're refinancing, don't wait on the sidelines while other people lock in their deals. This window won't stay open forever. Contact Mortgage Connections because the time for your dream move is now. All the information to contact Mortgage Connections is in the description of this episode. If you've been in an accident, the last thing that you want to do is to worry about paying a lawyer. You shouldn't do that. But that's why with Amir Maklid, you don't pay a dime until he wins your case. His philosophy is simple. He either wins or he doesn't get paid. For over 20 years, Amir has fought cases of car accidents, slip and falls, and other serious injuries, making sure insurance companies pay what they owe. He doesn't give you empty promises and makes you pay upfront costs. He makes sure he gets you results. When you need someone in your corner, call Hal Maklid because Amir doesn't win until you do. And all the information to contact Amir and Hal Maklid is in the description of this episode. And now, back to the show. Although if you think about it, this is where hypocrisy comes in, is that a lot of Muslims would die and would give everything they have to help one revert come to Islam. They would die, like for them to have that on like their deed list, like reverted one person, is like the holy grail for a lot of them. But
then after,
what are you gonna do?
What are you doing?
Judge and be like, fix your scarf. That's not how you wear it. One of the comments that boiled my blood in one of the episode that I did with my friend, the Revert, is he had earrings on, and one of the comments was like, advise him on the earrings, and he had been reverted to Islam a few months ago, and I'm like, come on, this gentleman came from Japan and went through like hell and back, and he found himself in Dearborn out of all places, and he reverted to Islam, and he's talking about how his life changed and all these things, and you're really worried about the earrings. Like it annoyed me because
it's infuriating.
It's been a couple months. First of all, with like wardrobe and stuff, I don't think a lot of people know, but if earrings are cultural,
yeah,
and where
Islam
you
allows
live,
for
Islam will allow it.
Yes,
you know. So, but other than that, let's say it's not culture and he's wearing earrings. Let the guy wear earrings for however he needs to, little by little, you know. You have 1,000,000,001 things to do when you revert to Islam, you know, from your prayers to your fasting to your food to your garments. Like, you have a lot to do. And
it's more than that. It's cleanliness.
You're
learning to use the bathroom a different way.
Yeah.
That's awkward.
Yeah.
Have that conversation. You're learning to like which mosque to go to, which people you can trust. I mean, it is a life-altering, changing thing that you have to learn.
And people are worried about the small details that don't matter.
Yeah. And it invalidates.
Yeah.
It invalidates that person and everything that man came on here and was vulnerable enough to share. It's the equivalent of being like going home and being like, Baba, look at my report card. And you get all A's, but you have 1 B+. And that's what he
focuses on.
That feeling is what Reverts experience all the time. Like, I remember I worked so hard to get to where I am, and I was so joyous at being able to have a son, right, for the first time. I lost our first baby in the 2nd trimester, and so I was a nervous wreck. And when my son was born, I was so excited. His name is Samuel, which is a prophet that's referred to in the Qur'an, not by name, but he's referred to. And I brought him to the masjid at maybe like 6 weeks old. We sat in the back, and I had some people come up. They were just so happy, especially my friends who had realized, known that I had lost a baby previously. But yet 3 different people came and told me, well, why didn't you give him a Muslim name? Really? First of all, read the Qur'an. He is a prophet that's mentioned in the Qur'an. But secondly, that's what you have to tell me? Like, it is invalidating, and nothing I can do is right. And I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with, naming your family after that debate. Of course. And I feel like that can transcend cultures. But also, I'm not Arab, and my husband isn't Arab. And we chose the name Samuel because we both have Samuel it's my husband's like grandfather's name. I have a great grandfather named Samuel. We like the last name, and we like that Sam was kind of ambiguous in cultures. He could go down to Mexico with his name of Samuel. He could go to,
He can go to the Arab world and say his name is Sammy.
And he does. He goes by Sammy. He loves the name Sammy. And I can't tell you how many times that I'll be somewhere and someone says, oh, my jiddo's name is Sammy. Sheikh Aus said, oh, my dad's name is Sammy. Like when they met him. Like, so many people talk about, oh, Sammy. And I wanted that protection for him to where he's not having to explain people outright what his name is. I wanted people to know that, like, when he goes to the masjid, people can say his name. But I wanted to respect my husband's heritage and his culture. Of course.
And your family, too.
But it was such a slap in the face. It was so frustrating.
It's mind-boggling, the small details that people, like, put effort into. Like, there's way more things that you need help with than those things, Like, if an Arab Muslim or a Middle Eastern Muslim that Islam is embedded in their culture want to do things to help, I'm pretty sure there's a long list of things that they can do to help. Yeah. other than telling you what not to do and what everything you're doing wrong.
Invite your revert friends over for Eid to go have with your family. They're like, oh, well, I'd have to tell my parents. Okay, you're an adult. Tell your parents you're going to bring. Do you think your mom will be upset? Your mom will be happy. Bring them. That's what I've gone to Eid at my friend's house. Let's go have fun.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why make me sit alone on Eid? Right?
Yeah.
Or, especially like last year, we met at the mosque with my friends, and her family kind of does it in, like, one will do like the 9 a.m. prayer and watch the kids, and then they flip.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, just throw them in with the kids. I'm like, okay, let's go. Because my husband can't always get time off, especially because Eid sometimes is like, well, what day is it? So it's hard. So, yeah, there have been times where, like, me being invited to that, the alternative is me sitting at home. Because what am I going to do with my 3-year-old or my 1-year-old? Things like that. Or, during Ramadan, during Iftar, like, invite them over.
Do you feel lonely?
I used to. And I think I'm at a point now where, alhamdulillah, like, I have had friends for many years that have seen this full evolution, that I am now a part of their family as well. Or I have friends that are, their family might be in, like, the UK, or they might be somewhere else, and so we kind of buddy up together. But that's a uniquely me thing. And I think a lot of reverts are lonely. I'm also at a point now where my family is on board, right? So a couple years ago for Thanksgiving, once I had my son, they were like, hey, you want to come over for Thanksgiving? I put my foot down. I said, I don't want to come if my son can't eat anything. It's one thing for me to be somewhere and I can't eat anything except, like, the veggie tray, but I'm not going to do that to my son. And they said, okay, we'll make it fully halal for you. So everything from the turkey to the gravy to everything, like, was fully halal. I mean down to, like, purity halal, like a new pan, all of it. And I went, I took my son, and obviously my husband came with me, and I left sobbing. Because I could not, if you would have told me that a few years ago, or this was, like, if you would have told me that a few years before that my family would get on board when I was in secret doing all these things, I wouldn't have believed you. I'd have been like, you are crazy, okay? But I left there realizing that my life had become something that was so peaceful and secure that I didn't even pray for that because I thought it was so far-fetched. Like, I wouldn't have ever even prayed for something like that. But how minuscule is that in terms of you being able to go eat with your family? Imagine if tomorrow you decided to risk all of this for your religion, change your religion, and now you can never eat your mom's food again. Even if your mom was a very mediocre cook, it's still the nostalgia that you grew up in, the taste, the act of eating with your family around a table. Imagine that was just
without
gone.
picking and choosing and just sitting on the table.
And that was gone. I don't feel like people understand. But then people will judge that person for converting and doing their best, but then eating something that's not halal because they're fighting that battle. And obviously, in a perfect world, yes, we're keeping halal, we're doing this, we're keeping our prayers, but there's no empathy because people don't understand, and they think, oh, well, I would XYZ. I could do that. I could do this. I would do that.
We don't know if those people that are speaking, if they were born into a different religion, would even consider changing their religion because of, like, the hard-headedness and just the unwillingness to change. So people even putting themselves in that situation is, you'll never be in that situation.
Yeah. And I think when I was growing up, in Dearborn, for example, I played basketball for like 12 years. Like I played, I know he was on your show in Hype when, like, Hype was just starting, and I played throughout the whole thing. And I also, played at Dearborn High and all these things. My team for a long time was a group of girls whose parents knew each other from Lebanon and then here. And they, like, 2 of them were cousins, the other were just really good friends, and they would hang out all the time. And it was impossible for me to, like, break through that because my mom didn't know them. I wasn't a part of that, and I was constantly, like, on the outside.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my experience being, white growing up in Dearborn. It was different. I didn't fit, into the Arab community. I didn't. And so as a revert, sometimes you still feel that. luckily now I've known these people for so long that my son now won't have that. He gets to go to play dates of people that I know and ladies from the masjid and from the park, and now he'll go to school with people that he's known for forever. But I worry about how my kids will be treated because they're not Arab and both of their parents are reverts. And I'm comforted by the fact of, like, I have a lot of connections in the community, like, active in the community. I have friends. But I worry about what happens when my 2 boys want to get married one day, if they want to get married one day. Are they going to face the, honestly, racism and bigotry that other people have to experience? And it scares me. And it's not fair because they won't, not that there's anything wrong with being a revert, but you can't even use that as an excuse of, like, oh, they're new to Islam. My sons are being raised Muslim.
Yeah.
But will that still not be enough? And yes, there will be people who are kind and will say, oh, no, I respect his parents for being Muslim. But that doesn't mean that they want their grandkids to have that as a father.
Wow, there's so many details that go into it when you think about the coming generations. That struggle doesn't stop only with you. It's not like you're fighting this battle and then it stops with Sammy, for example. No, it might trickle down to him. Now, here's my optimistic viewpoint on that, is that the next generation are a little more aware. And I'm hoping that that is not the case and that they're looked at as just a fellow Muslim. Sammy's just your fellow Muslim. There's nothing more to that.
You'd hope.
It's my optimistic view.
But like I said, it's something that, like, worries me. Of course, as a mom, like, I worry about my kids all the time.
That's very fair too.
But I worry about their future, and I also worry all the time about what would happen to them and their faith if something happened to my husband and I. It's another deep fear of mine. What happens if my husband and I go out to watch a movie and something happens on the road?
And you don't come back.
What will happen to my kids' faith? I am my kids. Like, my husband works. I'm a stay-at-home mom, which is the best job, and I love it. It's still a job. I love it. But my kids are with me, and I am their door to Islam. If I'm not praying her on the floor in the living room, they're not seeing it. They don't have sitto and jaddo and khalto to be, to come over, or we're not going over to their house and seeing them pray. It is me. That is on my head. If I'm not teaching them about God, then who is? Or, like, if I'm not teaching them about, Eid and Ramadan, who is? Because they're going to get Santa Claus and all these things from my parents, from his parents. And I don't think that's bad that they're learning. I'm glad that they're learning diversity, but it is a lot on my head. It is a lot on my shoulders to have to teach them and show them. And I worry constantly about if something were to happen. Like, I pray that Allah gives me a long life solely so I can be here to guide them through Islam, at least until they're old enough to bear that on their own.
That's a very valid fear that you have. But if you allow me just to put my just the thought that comes to my head is your family was not in this, like, Islamic fold for 400 years, and God still picked you and got you out of it. So it's not so much you, the one that is going to do the introducing. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you started early in the conversation with He guides who He wills. And with you or without you, they will be guided. Inshallah. And I was having this conversation with my wife the other day, and we were talking about kids and, like, what happens to, like, the same fears that you're talking. And it's just, you can do your best, but at one point they're Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, the creations too, and He will take care of them, and just like you prayed the day after you reverted, and you told them to ease those fears and take those all the pain and the doubts away. I'm pretty sure that when you put your head to the ground, you also ask Him to take care of your kids as well. And that's not a prayer that is light. I feel like that's a very heavy prayer.
It comes from the heart of a mother.
Yes, that you want your kids to be under this fold as well. That you want them to be Muslim, and This is my interpretation of it, as just how I look at religion, is that God didn't turn you Muslim for no reason.
Right.
It's just not, he picked you out of like a needle out of a haystack, and he was like, okay, that's I'm done. No, there's generations that are coming after you. You are the start of the coming generations. So although your fear is 100% valid, with you doing your best now, even having this conversation, for them to look at maybe in 20 years,
Yeah.
they open YouTube, they
I'm like, Mom, why did you go on this podcast? I'm like, "Wow."
yeah, like just these are things that you're doing that are planting seeds for your household before they're planting seeds for everyone listening right now, you know.
Mhm.
So I just want you to think about that your kids are under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, and I have no doubt that you're doing a fantastic job as a mother to plant those roots in your household, and those roots will grow. Because if you're doing something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so this is what I'm saying, is that I don't think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be looking at you and Lauren's doing all this effort for her kids to be good Muslims, and she doesn't want them to go astray. You know what? If I decide to take Lauren out, they're going astray. It doesn't make sense for like the logic of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be that, you know?
Yeah.
No, you're planting seeds. Why wouldn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help you water them if they're for a good cause? You know what I mean?
Inshallah, I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah. But it is a difficult situation.
it is very difficult.
And I've had to have these conversations with like my parents, my in-laws, my sister-in-law. It's hard.
Mm.
It's something I've had these conversations with some of my best friends. Like, if something were to happen to me, you got to promise. Or even like if I die, worrying about, take my kids out of it. Do my parents know what to do if I die? What if they just send me to a funeral home to be embalmed and all that? We don't do that as Muslims, right?
Right.
So having to make sure that they have phone numbers. My husband has phone numbers of people at the mosque to call, because that's foreign to us. That's not something that we usually do.
Yeah.
To make sure that my body's not just placed in a freezer somewhere, that I can be buried on time. I worry about if my parents outlive me and my funeral is going to be held at the masjid, are they going to go? Will that be comfortable? Will they feel otherworldly? Will someone yell at my mom if her hijab's not right or if she doesn't have one? There's so much that goes into this.
Wow.
That people don't think about, you know? Don't think about it at all.
No, zero.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you mentioned never crossed my mind.
Yeah. Like when it's different because, you know, most people, if they're born Muslim into a Muslim family, you know that if you die, your family's going to take care of your body, do what you ask. You're going to be buried in a timely manner. You're not going to be, you know, left alone for days somewhere.
You're going to be Islamically washed properly.
Mm-hmm. But what happens if no one knows how to do that? Well, then what? You know, and there's ways to do that. And I think that's another part of like me trying to help and outreach back to the, you know, different communities and like telling them like you can get paperwork set up and you can, you know, have these things at the mosque that talk about it. But, you know, what about like missed fasts and missed prayers? You know, I've had 3 pregnancies and kids, and, you know, making sure that these, you know, fasts get made up as quick as I can, because I worry about if I die, what's going to happen. This is like a multifaceted issue, but yet then people want to yell at me because my name is Lauren.
Does it help talking to scholars about it?
It does. There's some that are really open and realistic. Like I know the Islamic Institute, I know them 100% because that's where I have mine. We'll give you like a form, almost like a will to like keep out there, to keep with them. You know, that talks about if you have missed prayers and missed fasts and different things. But then again, like where does that go? You know, like they have it. That's great. But now what? There's a lot that goes into this. It's not as simple as just, you know, I'm going to become Muslim and now everything's going to be great. And I do think that there's reward in it. And if you were to ask me, just 1,000 times worth it. And I am truly happy and at peace with my life. But I just wish that people had more awareness and more empathy, that there are so many things going on behind the scenes that people have no idea. But yet someone wants to yell at me about my name or my son's name, or that they don't think what I'm wearing is appropriate enough.
There's definitely a dark side to reverting. And not a dark side in a way where, like, I don't want it to seem like there's a dark side of Islam. No. I'm pretty sure that Lauren and Islam's relationship has been top tier. Your relationship with God, which is the whole point. I think the dark side is with other Muslims and their interactions.
Never being good enough.
Yeah.
Never.
Which is all forbidden, by the way.
Yeah.
Like all this is haram.
1,000%.
Yeah, treating
But
someone like
and
this.
I don't blame Islam.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, it's Muslims.
blame the
it's
Muslims.
culture. It's all of that. And I think another thing that people face too is when you find Islam, because this is a mistake I made. When you find Islam, you just think it's so perfect and so wonderful, and you conflate Muslims and Islam, and you trust people that maybe you shouldn't, or you're too open, or you're too vulnerable. You know, Muslims are flawed. Islam is perfect, I believe, right? But Muslims can suck sometimes. And you just step into this world and you think everyone has the best intentions and everyone's going to, you know, keep your secrets and look out for you and help you through all these vulnerable things. And that's not the case.
You know why also is because some of the people that helped you get to Islam are actually some of the best Islam has to offer.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about Abir, like top tier human being, you know, like if someone wants to get introduced to Islam through Abir, that's a very healthy way of getting introduced to Islam.
But you know, she told me she prayed for that. She said she used to watch Revert stories and convert stories as like a middle schooler. I would say, God, if I can ever help someone, let me help somebody.
Wow.
And now I'm Muslim. My husband became Muslim. My kids are now Muslim. People, like, God will use you.
Yeah.
People have no idea the picture that they play. But you're right. I've been extremely lucky, extremely blessed. And the whole reason I started Revert outreach in general and trying to build some community and some sort of, you know, like filtration system to be able to help people get these resources is because I got to the point where I realized I can breathe.
Is that a thing? You have that?
Yeah.
Revert outreach?
Kind of. I have something called the Revert Circle.
Okay.
Which has been on pause for a little bit because I had my youngest a year ago and it was just craziness, right? Trying to adjust to being a mom of more than one kid has, you know, definitely humbled me a little bit. But I started the Revert Circle with help of a few scholars. One of them that really helped me was Sayyid Muhammad Bakr. I ran a lot of ideas past him. And then who helped me here was Sheikh Ahmed Sheri, as well as in the beginning when we were getting started, Brother Ali Abu Khadr helped me a lot. So these are, you know, scholars, like people who are studied and, you know, learning at this. But I started something called the Revert Circle because it was just on my heart heavily that if I died, or when I die, on the day of judgment, when I have to answer to God for not doing more for other reverts? Like, I felt like my head was above water. I'm swimming. I'm okay now. Are other people okay? No. And I can look past the cultural differences because I was, you know, being born in Dearborn. Like, I get it. Like, go over to my friend's house, and if my shoe was upside down, they'd yell at me, you know? Like, I get it, okay? But other people don't understand that, and this is something that's hitting them in the face, the cultural differences, the barriers, the loneliness. I was at a point where I was okay, but are other people okay? What am I doing to help it? Like you said, I've had some of the best people help me, like truly feel like I was walked down, you know, the yellow brick road with, you know, holding hands with God. Like, and now where am I? Like, what am I doing now to help other people? Because my story has many things have I said that have left you shocked. There's way worse. There's way harder. There's way more challenging. There are things that don't have the happy ending. And am I helping other people? So I started the Revert Circle as a way of, I'm constantly having people referred to me or people messaging me saying like, hey, I wanted to, this person at work asked me questions about Islam. Like, do you have any resources? I didn't have any, or I'd have to find them every time. So trying to find and create a consolidated place that I can pull from to save myself energy and be able to help more people, but also for other people to help other people. Trying to create like some sort of system, but it's been challenging. It's been faced with a lot of pushback in the sense of some masjids don't want to help or let them be hosted there because it's not theirs. It's not board approved. Or if I'm going to hold it there, they want control of the whole thing. But you're not a revert. I don't know you. You're an old man with a lot of money that sits on the board of a mosque. how do you know what we need? You don't. And it's been faced with pushback, or I'll create a group and then trying to help, and then someone else will, like a mosque will make its own instead of using what's already established.
Yeah.
It's been difficult, and it hasn't been easy, and I'm trying to do this while also juggling my own responsibilities, because firstly I have to answer as a wife and a mom, and this comes after. So,
but they do have a resource in you. If a revert's listening right now, this is what I'm thinking about. If a revert's listening right now and they're going through struggles, and maybe a lot of what you said, like, they strongly relate to, like, can they say we have a resource in Lauren if we want to talk to her?
Yeah. Yeah, I towards the end of September, I'm not sure when this will air, but at the end of September we will be hosting another coffee chat, just a convert chat and coffee. That's what we call it.
It'll be before then.
Okay, so it'll be posted. So you can come and hang out and just chat. And we're gonna have a couple coffee chats. So whoever wants to come to the community can kind of figure out what we need. But in the past, we've done all sorts of things. We've done learn to pray workshops where we taught people the Fatiha and the surahs that they need to be able to pray. We've done modest clothing swaps where people donated clothes and people were able to come and either swap out their clothes or just get clothes. And people were leaving with bags of clothes and hijabs, because once again, it's a monetary issue. It's an accessibility issue. And a lot of reverts, not all, but a lot of reverts want to take those steps, but they just don't know how. So if they can come for free, take a couple different fabrics of hijabs, and nice ones like chiffons and nice things, and just take one or two and mess around and try and see what color works or what they like, then it's a lot less scary.
Right.
We've also given away multiple Qur'ans, good English translation Qur'ans, because they have to be of good quality and a good translation that makes sense and is welcoming. And anytime someone messages me and says that they don't have a Qur'an, or I meet someone at one of our events, they don't have a Qur'an, I can very quickly message a couple group chats on WhatsApp and someone is donating a Qur'an. There's also a way to donate on our Instagram page. If you want to go and buy a Qur'an for someone, you can do that. And that money goes directly toward giving someone a Qur'an. And we've had people even say hey, I bought a Qur'an and I put, my jiddo's name who passed away in the front. Is that okay? Yes, it's okay. And I will give it to them. I also have a stack of prayer rugs in my garage that I can give to people who need prayer rugs. There's just so many things that people don't think about. But it isn't easy, because the people who are coming to ask me for help need help. They're not in a great place. It's not like I'm just making all these friends.
Yeah.
It's I'm helping people who are struggling with their family, and I have to be a safe person for this person to open up to. People are being vulnerable, and to a point, I'm taking on what they're going through and helping them through it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of times where I'm helping this person through and it ends up being too hard and they give up. And that is hard.
It is heavy.
Yeah. Because I may have befriended this person for months and then they just kind of stop answering. They ghost me, and then I see that they're no longer following Islam. And it's hard. And that happens more than people think.
Do you feel like that responsibility lies on your shoulders when they do that?
No, I know it doesn't.
Okay.
But I feel like it does.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes back to the thing where my husband is like, we're out of shirts. The store's out of shirts. It's not your fault. You can't give everyone the shirt off your back because you're not wearing any more shirts, Yeah. It kind of goes down to I can only help so many people. And thankfully my husband is very patient. But yeah, I have a couple converts and just a couple people in my neighborhood that during Ramadan, people have these excessive gatherings, which is another thing that I'm really opposed to, is when they have all this excess food during Ramadan with what's going on the other side of the world. That is appalling, and we should be ashamed. But people will come and bring me extra trays of food, and I will sit there and bag it up and give it to other reverts I know who are either living with their parents who don't eat halal, or people who are facing, financial difficulty, and I will drop it off to them, or they will come pick it up from my house. And to the point where I have a bench on my front porch and people will have put 9 trays there before. Then I am bringing them into my house while my kids are running around or they're asleep. bagging them up, getting them ready to be frozen so people can save them so it's not going to waste, posting online, messaging them directly, hey, I have more food, can you pick it up? No, I don't have a car, dropping it off. Like, I'm doing all of these things while trying to balance being a mom and a wife and, you know, putting my kids to bed and giving them a bath and all these things. So, like I said, I'm very lucky that my husband is patient, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I know that we have some really great organizations like Helping Hands and different things, but they can only take so much. They can only do so much. And there's certain days where they need a break to be able to enjoy their Ramadan. So when there's extra, when they're full, or when they're not able to pick up, then what are we doing? So, there's so many ways that people just have no idea of ways that they could be helping the community, but they don't. And like you said, they're so quick to get them to say, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, but then what? Then what?
Then they're like, here, enjoy the ride by yourself.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Kick them out of the car in the middle of the desert. Good luck. It makes me really sad because people love Islam and want to come to Islam. I was reading a statistic that 1 in 4 Muslims in America is a revert.
Wow.
1 in 4 Muslims in America is a revert. It's like 22%.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So what are we doing to help other people?
Yeah. Wow.
This is an ongoing thing in our community that people don't think about or care about because it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
They go to the masjid and they sit with their family and they ignore other people. They don't want to reach out, or mosques don't want to change and make them more welcoming to other people of different religions or cultures because they're doing the same thing over and over that they've been doing for how long?
And I think a lot of them will think that these problems that you're describing are not relatable to them. Is that because your typical Muslim, Middle Eastern Muslim, doesn't have a problem eating halal food? Your typical Middle Eastern girl doesn't have a problem telling their parents that she wants to dress more modestly. Parents would go crazy over that. They would give her as much money as she wants, unlimited budget.
Not always. I do have friends that have talked about how like their parents were scared.
Yeah.
If they wanted to wear a abaya all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Or didn't want them to put on the hijab because they were worried that they were doing it in haste or something. I think
definitely.
I think even Muslim girls experience it too, but you're right. I don't think it's on the same caliber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's one thing that we didn't talk about today that you think we should have?
I think the biggest thing that I want people to know is that being a revert is hard, and to have a little bit more empathy with people, meet them where they're at, but also they need protection. They shouldn't just be handed off to whoever and taught whatever. Like, it needs to be handled with tact. I don't think that just any born Muslim has the qualifications or the experience and the knowledge to correctly and delicately help people who revert to Islam.
True.
And that's offensive to a lot of people. And I think that's...
You mean offensive to some Muslims?
Yeah.
Telling them that they don't know enough?
I think people do a lot of damage. Well, it's not that they don't know enough.
It's
that they don't understand, and they don't have the tact or the empathy. And I can sit and teach people, but it's still not the same. And I think that's where it becomes hard, is I have a lot of friends who are born Muslim who would love to help me, and they do, but they still don't know what it's like. They can only relate to some extent. And I think that there needs to be change, but I can't do it alone. I would like to say that I could, but I can't.
No, you can't.
I can't. There are hundreds of people, 100,000 people live in Dearborn. There's a lot of reverts, a lot of converts, a lot of people who want to look into Islam. But it's Muslims and the society and world that we live in, the Western world, all of this, that makes it hard. Because a lot of people, when they look into Islam, they really like it. It's pretty cool, if I do say so myself.
It's the fastest growing religion in the world for a reason, I think. Like, people are reverting at paces that we haven't seen before for a good reason. But it's it's the idea that when you say your shahadah, that's your finish line, when in the beginning, that's right at the beginning
It is.
of where everything starts.
That is
I
just
think
when the
that's-
timer starts. That's not
yeah.
even step one.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the biggest problem is people thinking that when you get a Christian or a Jew or whoever or a Buddhist to the shahada, that means you brought them to the finish line, where really you just flipped their whole world around, and now the real work starts then. You know, and I think that people don't understand it. And to be honest, I never understood it as well as before having this conversation. Like, now I feel like I really understand, even though I probably don't understand to the full extent that you understand, but definitely changed my perspective.
You're at least more aware.
Like,
Yeah.
in ways that I didn't, like, there's things that you said and I'm like, that's so obvious. How did I never think about that? But that's so true. How do they eat? Where do they really, if she doesn't have an extra $100 to buy clothes, of course she's not going to look modest, and she's not going to be able to get the, like, obviously, you know. But these are just things that, because maybe they came so easily to my sister, for example, that I don't think they're that difficult to someone else. But because even if you were poor, you still can go to the corner store in Lebanon and they'll still have very cheap but hijab appropriate attire, right? So,
and it might be easier in Dearborn, but what if you live somewhere where there aren't other Muslims?
that's
Then you can't just ask for
very
hand-me-downs
difficult
from someone else.
And I really hope that reverts that are listening are able to reach out and are able to find the help. And I hope that they're able to relate to what you said, because I think you dropped gem after gem after gem. And inshallah, wallah, this goes for anyone listening too. Keeping reverts kids in your prayers is, I think, the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway. Inshallah, Sami and Enzo are more Muslims and do better for Islam than you and I. Inshallah.
Yeah. It's hard because I feel like at this point, I don't really, like, my husband and I kind of navigate being in between both worlds. You know, we don't really fit into our old life, but what does our new life look like?
Yeah.
And I think people just need to be more aware at making other people comfortable, changing the rhetoric that we use, talking about white people this and white people that.
Yeah.
Watching how we bash and we speak about Buddhists and Christians and all these people. These are my family that I love dearly. Like, I don't want to hear
good people.
Yeah,
they're good people.
You know, and I was raised like my parents still, like, you know, were like dressed modestly. You know, like I don't even think seen my mom wear like short above her knee. Like, they don't drink. They're, you know, there's a lot of things that are very similar, but then people make these generalizations that even aren't true. Or people will talk about, you know, reference people. Oh yeah, can you believe people who drink do this and that? But a lot of my friends who are reverts, their family does, you know?
Yeah. It's hurtful. It's
so
backhanded,
hurtful.
like, yeah.
And it makes you constantly on edge, and it makes this division that says you and I are different. And those things are rooted in bigotry and racism.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
And people don't like it when people do it to us as Muslims or you as Arabs, but then they're very quick to throw it back. And I understand. I understand that it is hard not to have these divisions because, you know, your parents wanted to protect you and they taught you these things, but now it's time. Our generation is not the generation that was in fight or flight of war anymore. Some of it was, you know, and obviously some other countries, but most of the people who are here now, like you and I age, you know, first generation, you're here. It's time to change now. It's time to do something different. It's time to, I know that during those times that us and them was what they needed to survive and to make sense of the world. But now, before our generation is raising another generation of kids, it's time to explore and expand and heal some of that and realize that, like, there are other people here, then it's not that simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's more to it.
Thank you so much, Lauren. This was great.
Oh, thank you for having me.